Good afternoon and welcome. This session is titled the Renewable Energy Economy, Unlocking Investment Scale and Speed. But those three words, investment, scale, speed, are not naturally in harmony. In this region, more often than not, they are in direct competition and confrontation with one another. We are meeting today at a moment of unusual clarity about what is at stake. Russia's war in Ukraine has made energy security a hard political priority across Europe. The wars in Gaza and the broader confrontation around Iran have added a further layer of volatility. For the Western Balkans, the pressure is compounded. These are the countries that are simultaneously EU accession candidates, energy community members, but also in certain cases exposed to fossil fuel supply chains they are trying to exit. At the same time, a new external pressure has arrived. As of 1st January this year, European Union's carbon border adjustment mechanism entered into definitive phase. For this region, or for the better part of this region that still exports carbon-intensive electricity, this is not a future threat. It is a present cost. Amounts vary depending on estimations, but they go as high as 80 euros per megawatt hour. At the same time, it is changing the business case for renewable energy faster than any political declaration has ever managed. The capital to fund the green transition is available globally. The question is whether it lands here, and if so, at what terms, at what price, and in whose favor. To work through that, we have assembled a panel that sits at every moment of investment chain: government policy, multilateral development finance, distributed finance, and of course, the developers who ultimately put steel in the ground. Joining me today, please applause for my panelists: Montenegro's Minister of Energy and Mining, Mr. Admir Šahmanović. A member of the board of the Green for Growth, Stéphanie Capdeville. Co-founder and managing partner of Alcazar Energy, Daniel Calderon. CEO of Masdar, Mohamed Jameel Al-Ramahi.
Nice to meet you. ¿Habla español? ¿En Deutsch? ¿Muss ich auch Deutsch sprechen?
And the head of Energy Europe at EBRD, Grzegorz Zielinski. I hope I pronounced it properly. Let's start immediately. Minister, let's start with you. Montenegro has been putting a lot of effort to transform what was a heavily hydro and coal-based system into the one actively building the conditions for diversified renewable energy market. You've enacted the renewables energy law. You are finalizing the framework for auctions, and of course, the European Union accession path is a strategic constant throughout that. Can you give us a sense of where Montenegro stands now? What has changed in the last couple of years since you've assumed the public office, first as a state secretary and now as a minister?
More or less, you said it all. Now I have nothing to share anymore.
You are a politician. I'm sure you will manage.
No, thank you. Great questions. Thank you very much for it. Let's say that what's changed. So minister changed in the energy sector. Now we as a government, as a state, we changed our perspective. From one country that was, let's say, struggling with its potentials and with production, now we have a lot of bigger ambitions. So now is the time when there will be no difference between small and big nations. There will be difference between countries who has energy and those who are not having energy. So this recent crisis that we had before in the last 2 years, and now again with this oil crisis, are showing us how important it is to build resilient systems and to not to depend on other countries, because the countries which are depending on energy from some others, so that they don't have their sovereignty, and so that someone else is basically controlling them. So what do we have in Montenegro? We put the focus last year and this year on the enhancement of the legal and strategical framework. And I have I'm proud to say that we finalized almost all legal frameworks. I want to say that we harmonized our legislation with the EU acquis in the scale of 99%. Let's say we have just some small bylaws to finalize and to have it 100% realized. So other than that, we have put also high indicators for ourselves. We have a lot of tasks to do in the future period with investments. So we have everything. Now we need investments. Let me tell you that the last investment in our energy system, in the production manner, was done in 1982, where the thermal plant was built. So
You mean the state investments?
State investments regarding the production facilities. So let me remind you that was a very long time ago. That was the year when Lionel Richie, Diane Ross issued their biggest hit, Endless Love. So long time ago. So now we are in the phase of one huge investment cycle, and Elektroprivreda Crne Gore, EPCG, our national utility, has started with a lot of projects, and now we can say that in the next 2 weeks we will open our first wind park, which is national state-owned, and also of 55 megawatts. It's a lot for us, and we also
You're talking about Gvozd?
Yes, wind park Gvozd. And we also signed annex with our partners who are helping a lot from the EBRD, and for the second phase, where we will enhance the capacity of this wind park. And also we are planning to do. I'm also proud to say that we signed today a joint venture agreement with our friends from Masdar. And this is the biggest company in the world, and we have big plans to do with them, because our goal as a government is to have such kind of projects which will make us important in the future. Next to that we will build a resilience system. We'll be an important partner for the EU by being able to provide energy, cheap energy coming from green sources, like. As we have a huge hydro, solar, and wind potential, we are eager to use that what we have. So together with Masdar and with other friends in the private sector, our plan is to increase the production capacities and to keep low prices of energy from one side because of our citizens and our economy, from other side to attract big investments such as data centers and all the technology that follows AI. So there are some statistics that is saying that in the next couple of years there will be increase of the usage of electricity by 400%. So there we see the opportunity to use our position also next to our potential, our position and the cable that we have that is connecting us with Italy, that we have initiated the process of market coupling. So how much time do I have? I'm finishing.
Okay, no, don't worry. Take your time.
This one important thing is to say that we have initiated the process of market coupling. Then let me remind you what Ms. Ursula von der Leyen said last year, that investments in Montenegro are considered as investments in the EU. So this is like, as our respected Prime Minister said, he's struggling always when he's explaining about, do we have a market of 500,000 of people or of 500 million? So this is how we can produce in Montenegro and export to European
For
Union.
which you will require and need significant investments in the infrastructure. You mentioned the cable to Italy, but before these large infrastructural projects come, I mean, I must share my impression about your team with the ministry and EPCG. I think anybody who is working with you guys is aware of how professional and dedicated you are. And I still remember when the auctions were presented that you went from the audience to the stage to respond directly to the questions, which is not something you often see from the high-level officials.
That's how I am.
Yeah. Going to the auctions. Going to the auctions, EBRD has been deeply involved in the regulatory reform in Montenegro. Minister was talking about, and with the auctions in particular. Last year we've seen the first round. It was, let's say, a first attempt. Like many first attempts, it generated some important lessons, I would say. From your perspective, EBRD is handling similar processes in dozens of countries. What are the lessons learned from this auction, from this first round?
Thank you for the question, and thank you very much for the invitation to the panel. I think it's important to clarify first that the role of EBRD as a development institution has got a number of different vectors. So we work with governments, with the regulators on setting up the rules of the game in the market. We help to design, implement CFD auctions, but we're also an investor, a provider of long-term project finance debt or equity. So we've got these two hats which create a bit of a conflict of interest, but every time we proceed with our policy and transactions, we have to be aware of our role. So our role is not to invest in a single project or maximize the returns on our project, but to see the transition as such. And in this respect, it is true that we have supported renewable energy auctions in a number of countries like
Serbia,
Macedonia, Albania, but also more advanced countries like Romania. But we also are working in extremely difficult geographies, working on the design of CFD auctions in Ukraine during the times of war, something that has never been done before, but we try. That's going to be our first time in Ukraine as well.
yeah.
Every single of these first tries brings a lesson learned. And I wouldn't really limit my response to what's the lesson learned from the first auction in Montenegro, but what's the lesson learned in general. And I think the important thing is to understand the ambition and extent of the commitment of the government in terms of green energy transition. What really drives the decision? What do we want to achieve on the macro level for the country? And then trying to see what's suitable. And obviously the solution, which is good for a smaller country like Montenegro, is not going to be exactly the same as solution that we would apply for a country of 30 or 50 million people somewhere else. So I think that scale of ambition needs to determine what we want to achieve and what needs to be done, not just because there's a different side of the market, but it's got an implication on going far beyond the investors, obviously including the grid connection capacity, but also the industry that support construction and then operation of renewables. So in this context, having a good plan, a plan that comes into stages, that sends a very clear signals to the investors that, we're just not doing one auction or two auctions, but, that's the direction of travel. And we'll come up with new auctions fine-tuned in terms of its design to learn from the mistakes made in the past and make it more appropriate for the future is exactly what EBRD would like to do.
Definitely. You mentioned the new auctions, the new rounds are for solar and wind are planned for this year.
Is this question for me?
Yes.
Like by our annual
Just
plan,
briefly.
like we are planning to publish again a call for solar in 250 megawatt quota and for wind 200 megawatt.
What is the estimated timeline? When do you expect to do that?
So I'm not able now to give you an answer on this because we have to pass some changes to some laws in the parliament. So you never know with the parliament, but we are doing it. We would like to see it as soon as possible.
Great, thank you very much. We've talked a bit about investment environment in Montenegro. Now let's go to the investors who are bringing the capital in the country and the region. Mr. Ramahi, Masdar deploys capital globally, and capital follows the strategic logic as much as financial returns. Rising geopolitical tensions around the world have made European energy security a top priority, like we've mentioned. Has that actually moved the investment case for the Western Balkans further and faster? I mean, Masdar has been present for more than a decade already.
Well, I know we have limited time and there's a lot of speakers here, but let me just say
we have a 10 minutes head start, so we are fine.
How excited I am to be here. in Montenegro, alongside esteemed panelists with His Excellency the Minister representing the government. I'm also really impressed with the organization. So congratulations for the organizers and congratulations for Montenegro, honestly. Fantastic, really fantastic. So, you know, Masdar has been in the business of renewables for 20 years, established by our president, His Highness Sheikh Mohamed bin Zayed. Tomorrow, in fact, is our birthday. So tomorrow, 23rd of April, 2006, the company was established under a vision of a leader who could see the future and believed that diversity is very important. Not because we are rich in gas and oil, because he believed that it is important also to harness your other indigenous resources. And therefore, he established Masdar to pioneer renewable energy transition within our region, the Arab world, the Middle East, starting from Abu Dhabi, our capital city. We started with 10 megawatt. Today, just this January, we announced our capacity of 65 gigawatts. So it took us 20 years to accomplish this great number, which puts Masdar as one of the global leaders in renewable energy, or one of the top 5 pure play in terms of renewables, because we only do renewable energy: solar, wind, battery storage, geothermal, pump hydro, offshore wind. And in terms of reach, we are probably number 1 today. So we've been in this great region since 2015. We started in Serbia,
Yes.
as you know. We built the largest wind farm there. And then in 2018, we came to Montenegro. We still operate one of the largest wind farms in this great, beautiful country. But 2018 and today, we are different. Montenegro is different. The region is different. The world is different. Okay? Today, renewable energy is mainstream technology. And today, if you are thinking and planning as a government to be resilient and to think about your national interest before anything else, particularly when it comes to energy security, you need to think renewables. First, you need to harness your indigenous resources, be it hydro, be it wind, be it solar, anything that is clean. That's what we promote. You can promote something else if you like, that could be indigenous, but at least Masdar only promotes green and clean renewables. We believe in this region. And yes, Montenegro, I've heard it a lot since the beginning of the day. Montenegro is small population, small demand. But Montenegro, yes, as a small nation, Montenegro, our business, which is power and energy and electrons, you know, electrons move. That's the beauty of electrons. It's like fiber optics. Data moves and electrons move. Montenegro is a very lucky place because your beautiful country, alongside their neighboring countries, agreed to build transmission lines and interconnectivity. In fact, Montenegro is also blessed, more than anybody else in this region, that has an interconnection with Italy already. So electrons move beyond borders. We don't see borders in our business. Okay? Yes. So Montenegro, while it's small, can still generate electricity and export that electricity across border to the west, to Italy, to the east, to Serbia, to the south, to Albania, and so forth, and so on and so forth. And it could move around. That's why today, Western Balkan is very important in our strategy. Today, Masdar in the Balkan region, including Greece and whatnot, we have more than 6 gigawatt of operational project and pipe development project at advanced stage. And we'll continue to deploy further capital in this region because we don't see just border, we see beyond borders.
We will be discussing in more details about how you make your stories successful ones. one of the success, and I understand the Masdar alumni, Daniel Calderon, who is now a partner and a CEO, managing partner at Alcazar Energy. Alcazar has built across markets with notable political risk. Current geopolitical situation around the world, does it make it easier or harder to make the investment case for the Western Balkans internally within the fund?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. And thank you, Mr. Šahmanović, for the opportunity. It's really great to be here. To answer that, let me give you a background on Alcazar Energy Partners. So yes, I'm an alumni. I had the opportunity to work for Masdar. And if they had not given me that opportunity, Alcazar Energy wouldn't exist, because our first markets were Jordan, Egypt, and without the lessons there, we could have never done it. So we appreciate the opportunity. And so what Alcazar has become today is a group of managers who are given the mandate to invest on behalf of essentially the largest European institutions. So today, we manage funds from EBRD, but also from 13 of the largest European multilaterals. These funds are committed. We also have funds from people like Allianz and La Mobilier and some of the largest German insurance companies. And we have a number of family offices from Europe and also from the Middle East. We also have other institutional money from the Middle East and Asia. But essentially, I wanted to explain that is institutional capital. 80% of our investors are either AA or AAA. And that money is put for us to make decisions on it during a period of 10 years. So the design of the whole thing is such that you will not want to profit from an opportunity. You may think that because there's a war today or because this is happening, you say, oh, exciting, let's take the return up 1%. No, that's not what we do. We're looking at the next 10 years. And we're looking at, as Mr. Ramahi was saying, the fundamental reasons why it is a good business idea to build a wind farm in Montenegro is because it's 40 to 50% fossil fuel dependent, is sometimes an energy importer, and therefore the fundamental reasons are there. But our returns are very simple infrastructure returns that an infrastructure investor will take in over a period of 10 years. Now, we even go beyond that. For example, we have built a portfolio of 2.5 gigawatts in Egypt, and the first $650 million of construction of that portfolio we start now in July with Siemens. And so we actually work with EBRD to mobilize European guarantees. And so we have mobilized European guarantees that have allowed us to lower the cost of debt to that portfolio of wind by about 100 and something basis points to the EFSD plus. Amazing thing. If you guys can use it, use it. And that has allowed us to maximize European content. So we basically work with European institutions to try to maximize European content. We're also trying to do the same thing around our portfolio here and in Macedonia. So essentially, we look at long-term returns, but we also look at ESG. Yeah, for us.
Also look at sorry, I missed it. You also looked at
ESG. So for us, yes, we need to have infrastructure returns. Our investors don't want us to be Messi or Ronaldo and get huge returns. No, they just want steady, Eddie, responsibly done returns, but with ESG. So the first two funds of Alcazar have produced about 2.5 million tons of annual CO2 savings per year. We've created about 7,500 jobs, and Your Excellency, 500 of those jobs will be here in Montenegro. And we produce electricity for our 450,000 households, 20,000 of those here in Montenegro. So we look at a double bottom line, a responsible long-term investment, but with good impact. And just to say thank you to Mr. Šahmanović, but also EPCG and CGS, because for Biela here, since we bought the project 3 years ago, it's been 3,000 plots that the team had to procure, the permitting process, etc. But it has been a lot of work for you guys as well, and we really appreciate the support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Capdeville, we've been hearing about large-scale, utility-scale projects, 6 gigawatt, couple of gigawatts, hopefully soon. But in this geopolitical narrative, when the energy security is pushing the capital towards these big strategic projects, does it leave the distributed end of the market further behind, or quite the opposite? Is the urgency actually creating the new openings for distributed finance as well?
Yeah, So I would say I feel like Montenegro within Europe, among these large players, because the Green for Growth Fund is a baby compared to I mean Alcazar and EBRD. By the way, EBRD is our parent. So 15 years ago, several development finance institutions created the fund, and why? Because well, I will go on keywords because I know everybody's hungry and tired. We received a lot of messages. And also I will try to leverage the keywords of this morning. Why the DFIs joined forces and created a fund 15 years ago? Because you need several parties in an ecosystem. You need to create an ecosystem. So that's the keyword for Montenegro. And it's not easy in a small country to create an ecosystem because the ecosystem means diversity of actors. You need to have large players, you need to have smaller players, medium players, because each of them will play a different role. And when you launch an auction, you need many players that try to team up, and only a few of them will manage to build the puzzle and propose an interesting application that you can select and then can go forward. So we add diversity, and as a fund, and that was the target of our founders 15 years ago. As a fund, we are more agile. We are specialized. We provide finance, green finance, for renewable energy projects and energy efficiency. So only that, a very simple business model. After 15 years, we are now grown 1 billion. We were born for the region. So the second word is trust. I mean, ecosystem. Richard Atias said this morning. The second word is trust. I mean, not only we trust in the region, in Montenegro and in the region, but we were born for the region. The initial name of the fund was Green for Growth Fund, Southeast Europe. And now we have expanded our activities in the whole European neighborhood, in Eastern Europe, up to Ukraine and down to Morocco in the southern neighborhood. But our core is here. And be sure that the investors that are trusting us and that are coming are evaluating our position in the Balkans, and they are happy, and that's why they continue investing. So trust, and the trust in the region I mean, we trust the region and we help building the trust, and we are happy that we invest in those countries so that institutional investors from Europe can finally invest in projects here. And the last word is bankability. If you remember this morning, I think there are no not bankable projects. I mean, a project is a need. A city needs energy for its citizens, for its transport system, agriculture, industry, etc. So there are needs. From a need evaluated by a government to a bankable project, there's a long way, but it's always feasible. The issue is about the time, I mean, the budget you put in the feasibility studies, in the impact studies, in looking for the right partners, looking for the right size of the partners. So in fact, when you really want to develop something in a place like Montenegro, you need capital for feasibility. And well, as development finance institutions, we have a technical assistance facility, and we are this patient-packed capital that can first finance, I mean, wind studies for a year for a wind farm. Not everybody is able to do that.
Thank you for sharing these views. Like I mentioned in the intro, one of the new political and regulatory thing that we as the region are facing is CBAM. It is reshaping the business case. Maybe Mr. Zielinski, just briefly, better part of this region has coal-intensive energy mix technologies. What is the EBRD's read on how CBAM reshaped the investment case for this country? And with you internally, you mentioned two sides of EBRD's work. Does it have any impact on how you are going to allocate your technical assistance programs and funds for the future, whether CBAM is perceived as a threat for this region?
I think it's right to assume that every threat is also an opportunity. So the way I view it in the energy sector is that CBAM is actually a very strong signal to invest more in renewables and to do it urgently. And one of the reasons, this question can be asked in many ways, or we could even have a separate panel to discuss CBAM. No time for that. But it is clear that this country has got a very strong ambition to become the EU member state. Fingers crossed for that to happen very soon. And the truth is that the moment Montenegro becomes a EU member state, CBAM falls away, but something else comes in, and that's ETS. Now, that prompts me to look at the experience of other countries that were joining EU back in the first wave of accession in 2004. And let me just give you example of two countries. My native Poland, with the coal dependence back then reaching 80%, and the neighbor from the north, Latvia, that was lucky enough to have 50% of hydropower generation. That translated into a much smaller costs of ETS to Latvia compared to Poland, making Polish economy less competitive than Latvian one, at least when it comes to the cost of ETS. And I'm ignoring all the details about how you can negotiate the exemptions from ETS, etc., etc. But from the big point of view, the more renewables you've got in your energy mix, the better you are, the more competitive you are as the economy. And yes, Montenegro's got a neighbor down south that's got a very clean energy mix that is also going to have that competitive advantage if they access to the EU. So my short answer to your question is absolutely more urgent, and we should be investing in the renewables right now.
But in my view, the first impression, at least for this first quarter, is that it actually had quite the opposite effect when it comes to deployment of new renewables, especially in terms of pricing. I mean, if you see the spot markets around the region, especially in Serbia, it saw a notable decrease of prices compared, for example, to Hungary. And that leads me to the question for you, Daniel. You are making a career, among other things, of pricing the long-term structures. How does CBAM make these off-take strategies? Does it make them easier for renewables or harder? Because what we've seen now is a bit different. Yeah.
So there's a great guy, for those of you that like renewable energy. It's called Dieter Helm. He's the architect of the CBAM mechanism. He was in the European Parliament. And his book is probably one of the best books on the future of renewable energy. He's an advisor to Alcazar Energy Partners at the fund level. And he did tell us early on that this was going to happen. CBAM was going to catch us by surprise, and then we're going to talk about it. And so that's what the architects wanted, and that's what's happening. But what happened is absolutely counterintuitive. It's true. Energy markets went down because energy is like cash or water, it's fungible. And so the traders in Europe don't want to touch the electrons here because they are 40-something% lignite. So we are going to have in November, the Ministerial Council is meeting in Europe, and hopefully they're going to come up with a more sophisticated way. So the electrons from the hydros and the wind farm will have a premium. Our advisors tell us that that's happening. And then you're going to have coupling with Italy at some point, a little bit after that, and then this problem is going to be gone. But right now, if you're a small developer, in the short term, you have a big problem because your electricity prices went up. But we have to look at the big picture. Right now, the world is having the worst disruption it had on energy ever. Yeah, let's face it, 20% of the LNG is not circulating. Those of you that go to your Bloomberg terminals, the forward curve on 1 year, 60% more expensive gas, 47% more expensive gas next year, 30% more expensive gas in 3 years, 15 in 4 years. Sometimes I like to share data so you guys remember this get together. Our advisors expect that the Balkans are a little bit protected because of the lignite component, but you will have about 11% more expensive power during the next 4 years. So what the best advice I received is, right now we're going to have a lot of uncertainty. Your insurance is all over the place. Your premiums are all over the place. The job is to stay calm and just hold the course. In 6 months from now, this pricing will adjust more or less on a 10% premium for a period of 4 years. Look, we just had a final investment decision last night for Project Steep, which is 350 megawatts. It's the better part of a €500 million investment. And the first phase will be 210 million euros. And we're looking to work with EBRD and IFC and Erste Bank to get it done this month on financial close. When we started that project 2.5 years ago, the project had been in development for 13 years. Yeah? So what we need to do now is not worry about the next 6 months. What we need to do now is, do we have the equity to do what we want to do the next 3 years? Yes or no? Do we have the debt? Is the ESG right? And deliver those business plans, and everyone will be fine. But we need to stay short from getting worried that CBAM goes down here, or maybe we can charge a bit more over there.
Absolutely. Just briefly, Minister, what's the government's view on this CBAM exposure, and what are the measures you are planning to implement in order to make that exposure lower? Just briefly.
CBAM is definitely a game spoiler, like it was introduced by the EU, but taking into consideration the fact that it is not aligned with the EU agenda, with the reform agenda, with green policy. It was representing a big threat for us, and we were very much concerned. And I think I was the loudest minister from the region in the last year, and I tried a couple of times visiting Brussels and trying to explain them that we need some transition period, as they're giving transition period to Russia for their gas. They should also have us on mind, because we are the next candidate for the EU, and I was talking in the name of the region, but unfortunately we didn't convince them. So I can say that beginning of January, in the first few weeks, we were very much concerned, because the traders were playing cautious and they didn't want to pay us high prices for market prices for our energy. And you know, our EPCG, we are like exporting traditionally in the first and the fourth quarter because of our hydro plants, and the second and third we are importing. And now this is how we are managing to maintain low prices of the energy and relative high salaries in the energy sector. So, and this was very much also concerning for our private sector, because we have like 65 projects in our private pipeline when we talk about projects being developed by private developers. So, but now we have more or less stable situation. Now the trade is going well. With all these 5 amendments that we have received from the European Commission in the last minute. But the answer to your question is that we need to introduce definitely ETS system. We have it on the national level. I think only country in the region that has
but with comparable carbon cost.
But I think that we found a way that that for the money that we pay for the carbons, that we can reinvest it in the renewable energy sector. This is a good way also to make incentives to the whole sector. But also from the other side, we have to build new renewable facilities, because our thermal plant, which is producing around 50% of the energy, stable baseload energy, and during the summer months, this figure goes even up to 70% when we have this low level of our lake hydrology. And this is very important facility for us, but we have to find alternative for the baseload. But the only way to do it is to build new facilities, and also to have in mind the social impact when the thermal plant is planned to be closed at latest by 2041 by our NSEPA. But in the meanwhile, we have to find a way for the source of energy and for this social impact, and we have to find the alternative to employment to all those people who are working in the coal mine.
These projects will create new business opportunities and new workplaces in different phases, maybe, but definitely they are bringing bread to a lot of tables, like Mr. Calderon said. These new projects you are talking about, they need to get financed somehow. Blended finance is central to almost every transaction in this market, in wider Western Balkans market. Ms. Capdeville, what does blended finance help versus when does it just additional complexity without moving the needle? It's for you.
Me? Oh,
Yes.
I heard
Blended
Mr.
finance.
Calderon.
Blended
Okay,
finance.
so because you gave an example of blended finance, I mean the EFSD plus with the
That's
EBRD.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
And well, I'm happy to showcase that blended finance. I mean, it's true that in theory it's very nice, public finance, small portion of public finance, helping private investors to come and develop projects. In practice, it has been very much criticized because it's slow, it takes time, it brings complexity. In our case, so 15 years after, I'm happy to share that very good news for us and also for the region and for Montenegro in particular, that blended finance works. I mean, 15 years ago, we got some capital from Europe and the German government together with DFIs, and we started gathering also institutional investors' support, investment. And now we are more than 1 billion. A third of our capital is the junior capital, the cushion that still Europe and the German government are happy to provide to balance the risk and to serve. I mean, we've gone through the COVID crisis. We are investing in Lebanon, and of course, we lost money there. We are investing in Ukraine, and you can imagine what happened. But we have this cushion of a third of our capital that is there to take the losses if there are losses. That enabled us through all these crises and even the current crisis to still be profitable and to deliver to the DFIs that are investing in us and to deliver to the institutional investors. So in fact, blended finance works because it brings institutional investors. And the good news is that, and this is a good news for the region, our business model works, and they are institutional investors, so pension funds, insurance companies from Europe, from the UK, from other parts of the world that are queuing to invest in our fund. We are 1 billion and 1.1, 1.2 billion. So there are limits of volumes, but they are queuing. And why? Because they want to invest in this region. So, and we serve as an intermediary because we have this security cushion provided by Europe. So that's the blended finance spirit. But it's good news that they are coming. And I would even share another good news. Just one punctual deal that we had very recently. An institutional investor, pension fund from the UK, who wanted to invest directly in one of our investee projects in Turkey. They would, in the past, have never invested directly because pension funds are very regulated and they are risk adverse. They would have never invested in Turkey directly. But as they saw the investment for many years, how it went in our portfolio, we did an offtake of this investment, and now the investor is investing in the country. We hope to do that in the next years, and that's our vision for Montenegro in the next 10 years.
Thank you. We are nearly at time. Apparently, a lot of people having vision about Montenegro and the Western Balkans, which is good to hear. Mr. Al-Ramahi, Masdar scaled from the Gulf and now across globally, basically. But let's focus on the Western Balkans, Montenegro, and the rest of the region. What are the most important factors in enabling the success of renewable energy projects here in Montenegro? And what advantages Montenegro and the Western Balkans have when deciding?
His Excellency the Minister highlighted the importance of partnership and attracting investors. I've said that we came to this region in 2015. We stayed in the region. We were not very active in Montenegro for a certain time. We are now heavily engaged, and our engagement back in Montenegro, it is due to government and leadership. So our success depends, our activity depends on a successful leadership that is driven by the government, the host government. And a great example for a successful leadership is what Montenegro is doing. So congratulations to you, my dear friend, and to your government. And partnership. So today we've signed a joint venture with EPCG here in Montenegro. Partnership is very important. Everything that we do depends on the will of our people, the people, what we call Masdarians, our team, our great team that operates all over the world, in difficult places and in beautiful places like Montenegro. And we are very proud of that. And of course, our partners all over the world. And we can't forget the importance of our financial institutions who allows us to and support our projects to finance it in a way that it is competitive, reasonable, to allow reliable, sustainable green electrons flow into a grid that is low carbon and that is competitive. That's ultimately our objective. So partnership, my friend, is key to our success, and it will be the key to our future success. And again, I'm very excited to be here in Montenegro, very excited to work with the government and our partners here in Montenegro, of course, in this great region.
Thank you. You mentioned partnerships on a couple of occasions. Montenegrin renewables law provides also for the possibility of strategic partnerships as a possibility or a tool to reach the national targets. How central is that institute in your thinking? We've seen one being implemented in Serbia under similar framework, 1 gigawatt solar. What do you think about that possibility? Are you planning to use that kind of institute for further deployment of renewables?
We are considering this possibility as well, like especially when we talk about batteries, and we are now in, let's say, in some phase of investigation of the opportunities in this sense, but also having in mind all our partnerships that we have initiated. That we are proud of it, partnership with Masdar. Then we have a partnership with France. I'm talking about G2Gs.
Yep.
Then also with Hungary, and now you heard our Prime Minister saying that probably in June this year we will sign G2G with USA. So these all G2Gs and these arrangements are opening a lot of opportunities. And also next to the auctions and to this strategical partnership possibility, we are considering that we have like one systematical approach, not to make crowd and to be sure that what we start to finish it. But definitely it provides us a good mechanism for doing things fast.
So that would basically mean also potentially fast-track permitting, fast-track processes in general?
Sure.
It could be the possibility.
Sure. Let me tell you one more thing. Like there is a new directive regarding renewable energy that we are now implementing. Before it is a must before if we want to close our chapter, and only 6 countries in EU have implemented RED III directive, and we are doing it right now. And RED III directive is helping us to speed up all the processes when we talk about building permits and impact studies on the impact on the environment.
Perfect. Just briefly, what's your experience in the region, in North Macedonia, in Montenegro, when it comes to length or speed of the processes for the permitting? You said you made the final investment decision.
I laugh because this project we bought in Macedonia first. The first thing we do is we get the advice of people like EBRD, IFC, because they guide us to see if the building blocks and the intention is there within the government, right? So we got this project that has been in the works for 12 or 14 years now. But at the moment, when you do the fundamental analysis, the ability to build it was there, the willingness to permit it was there, the ESG was fine. So we did the investment in a few $1 million and 1,400 plots later of land. Now it's starting construction. Montenegro, very similar. We sat down, we had a very humble conversation. The intention is there, the plot has complexities, but we think we can deliver. The technology is very much there. So we think if you do the fundamental analysis ahead of time, you will not waste your time. A lot of people tell you war stories of projects that gets canceled. I think that happens when someone is just trying to advance a permit to sell it to Mohamed or to someone for more money or to us. When that happens, you get projects that fail. But when someone comes to your country with the willingness to build it, the analysis they do is such that they will only spend the next $2, $3, $4 million if they can indeed build it. If the lenders have said, okay, we can do that. If Siemens has said, wait, we never built anything there, and then you bring them, and then they make you an offer to do it. That's how stuff happens when you look at it long term. Yeah.
Stéphanie, you mentioned bankability. We are joking that this was actually the word that was introduced into our languages in the Western Balkans by EBRD, actually, with the initial bankability study in 2010s. Final question for you. If you could remove one bankability concern you are constantly facing in this region, what would that be?
Well, you just talked about permitting.
Permitting.
I think in terms of effect on the speed, that's probably the biggest issue. And I'm talking about the region, not this country specifically, but generally around the region.
Great, thank you. Did you have anything to add? What would be critical for distributed finance unlocking?
Continue building the ecosystem. I think Montenegro is on the right path. I mean, even this conference, the whole conference shows it, that you understand that building blocks, even the telecom, everything is linked. And the Ministry of Energy has to link very much also with the Ministry of Agriculture, of employment. And we hope that you train young people to build your supply chains internally in the country and give opportunities to the citizens. Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is the end. We've finished on time because we've started ahead of time. So this was 10 minutes extra. Thank you for staying with us.
If you can all wait a minute, just a second, please sit. And you as well. Biljana, the stage is yours.
I promise this is the last time you're seeing me today.
We'll see about that. I'm not so sure.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, first, thank you for being with us. We are competing with beautiful weather, not at all an easy task, but a brilliant panel. Thank you very much. I'm here to share with you that this year, for the first time, we are establishing a new award. And that award, called Champion of the Summit Award, will honor either institution or an individual who went well beyond the protocol, and thanks to whose leadership and effort, this summit has grown significantly in this year. And there is one person without whom the most ambitious part of our agenda, which is the energy agenda, would not have existed. When we came up with the idea of a ministerial energy forum and then setting up, following that forum, the meeting between ministers and investors and developers, it was a very ambitious idea on paper, and it took months of work, week on week, getting everyone on board, coordinating with the Secretariat of Energy Community, and making sure that our ministerial meeting indeed becomes part of the Berlin process, ran in parallel to the summit. And that one person is the Minister of Energy and Mining of Montenegro. His Excellency, Admir Šahmanović. The reason Energy Forum is happening in the shape in which it is really very much thanks to both ministers' leadership and energy and effort, and that of his team that matched him at every step. I'm so happy to invite you, Minister, to get the first inaugural award. Either. Jeste me slikali? Super. Jesmo se slikali? All good. Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Ministre.
Thank you. Hvala.
Hvala.